Since the end of World War II, commercial tomato growing has flourished and become a vast industry. Because of the use of modern scientific methods here at Spenhawk Nurseries at Hawkwell in Essex, the yield has been increased from a mere 30 tonnes to 120 tonnes of tomatoes an acre. This greenhouse, which is being used as a potting greenhouse, is about an acre of growing area under glass. All the workers here are experienced and skilled in growing tomatoes. The seeds are sown into these trays that have been filled with a compost of peat and sand. Each seed is given sufficient space in the tray to ensure germination and good development. These seeds are hybrids coming from two different types of parent plant. Hybrid seeds produce plants that are less susceptible to disease and which give high quality tomatoes. Once sown, the seeds are covered with a sifted layer of peat. The rows of trays are carefully watered and then covered with a plastic sheet. This not only helps to maintain the temperature and humidity, it also protects them from birds and vermin. In the main or growing greenhouse, last year's plants are being removed. The haulms, the old stalks and foliage, are pulled out. They will eventually be taken away in a skip and dumped by a local contractor. The greenhouse is now meticulously disinfected from top to bottom, even to the footpaths and the ground immediately outside. This disinfectant is a toxic mixture of formaldehyde and paraffine. For this reason, the man is protected completely in special clothing and a mask. Once the greenhouse has been thoroughly disinfected, sheets of plastic are placed on the ground. These sheets are black on one side and white on the other. The black underside will prevent weeds from growing in the soil, and the white top side will reflect light back up to the growing plants. The pipes carry hot water to heat the greenhouse, but they also have another purpose, as we shall see later. As they grow to a considerable height, the tomato plants will need support. Here at Spenhawk, a very clever system has been devised to provide vertical and horizontal strings, which during harvesting will allow these tomatoes ready for picking to be lowered to a convenient height above the ground. Back in the potting greenhouse, the plants have grown to this size in a mere 10 days. A potting machine has been hired to prepare pots of peat into which the seedlings will be planted. In commercial growing, each plant represents a considerable financial investment, so great care is taken with each one as it's potted. Although outside there is snow on the ground, inside the airy greenhouse the temperature is kept at 64 degrees Fahrenheit or 17 degrees centigrade. In the main greenhouse, grow bags have been set out between the rails and the pots containing the plants are placed on top of them. At this stage, the young plant is not in contact with the compost in the grow bag. Water and liquid nutrient is fed to each plant regularly. The strength of the mixture and the frequency of delivery is computer controlled. Stringing goes on for most of the season, and it must be at the correct angle and tension. This man is performing a highly skilled task that he's learnt over many years. He's removing the side shoots and the wooden stakes and carefully twisting each plant, which could so easily be damaged, around its string. The trolley he's sitting on uses the heating pipes as its rails. Pollination isn't left to chance and the insects. These two women are using what's called an electric bee. The tip vibrates at high speed, and as they touch each flower with it, the pollen is dispersed. The temperature is still over 60 degrees Fahrenheit, and it's only early in March. Left to themselves, the plants would develop a lot of leaves. This would use a lot of the growth energy. The side shoots are constantly removed so that it's the tomatoes themselves that grow rather than the surplus leaf. At this stage, the roots of the plants are allowed to grow down into the grow bag. The maintenance of a constant temperature of over 60 degrees Fahrenheit is vital to the early development of the tomatoes. This large boiler burns atomized oil to heat the water that runs through the pipes to heat the greenhouse. The boiler is inspected, cleaned and serviced daily. One failure of the heating system could destroy the whole crop overnight. The cost of oil, like other fuels, has risen sharply over recent years, and that has increased the price of tomatoes and other greenhouse crops in the shops. Many growers of tomatoes on the continent of Europe are fortunate to have a government subsidy on their fuel costs, and they are able to undercut the prices of the British growers. Throughout the growing season, pest control measures are taken. This lady is applying 1 gram of a chemical called Vidate to each plant. The chemical is then watered in. Here are the first formed tomatoes growing in a group called a truss. The plants are now 3 feet high and growing quickly. The earlier the crop can be marketed, the better the price that the grower can command. Calcium is one of the chemicals necessary for successful development of the plant. Here, a warm, moist spray of calcium nitrate is given to the plants. This chemical isn't dangerous, so no special protective clothing is needed. The crop will in due course be sent to the shops in cardboard cartons. These are delivered to the grower in flat sheets, which take up less storage space until they're folded up into boxes later. The men wear protective gloves because the card has very sharp edges. The plants are now 10 feet or more high. The Whirlybird water sprays keep the humidity high and also, as the water splashes onto the plants, helps with further pollination. Pollination is also encouraged by this tapping procedure. Old, dying or decayed leaves are removed to reduce the danger of disease and to make the trusses more easily accessible for picking. Each tomato is twisted off and the green calyx is left on it. The tomatoes are picked before they're fully ripe. They will take some time before they reach the shops, and they will continue to ripen once they're picked, so they will arrive at the shops in perfect eating condition as ripe, firm fruit. The tomatoes are picked before the heat of the day to avoid bruising. Before packing, the quality of the tomatoes is checked and any substandard ones are rejected. The tomatoes are now graded for size and packed into cardboard cartons. Each carton is in fact packed overweight. Before they get to the shop, there will be some moisture loss from the tomatoes, so the carton will arrive at the shop at the correct weight. After each box has been filled, the packer presses a button, which records the number of boxes packed each day. Those tomatoes that haven't been dispatched immediately can be kept without over-ripening in this cold store for 2 or 3 days before they too are delivered to the shops.